All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Triaxle podcast. We are here today with Michael Brown out of Effort, Pennsylvania, and Michael is with Seymour Mac Productions.
That's correct, yeah.
Michael, I appreciate you making the drive up.
Yeah, thanks, man. I know we had to reschedule the first time. I almost had to reschedule on you again because I broke my tailbone on Sunday, and I was like, there's no way I'm rescheduling this. So I got mobile yesterday, and I was like, you know what? I'm good. I'm good to go.
How'd you break your tailbone?
We were ice skating for my mom's 65-year-old birthday there, and she used to be a figure skater, so we surprised her. All the siblings and kids went out there.
Oh, nice.
And I was killing it for the first 2 hours. Got a little too comfortable. Was catching a little too much speed. There was some young girls in front of me. They were splitting apart, so I was like, cool, I'll cut the middle. They came back together right at the last second, clotheslined me, and I fell hard, man.
Yeah.
I just laid flat for like 30 seconds. They're like, hey, that looked like it hurt, sir. I'm like, oh, it hurt. And I was able to get up and get off the ice. But I sat for like 5 minutes and tried getting up and walking. I couldn't even walk. My brother had to damn near carry me to the car.
Tailbone injuries are the worst.
Yeah.
Painful.
So, yeah, I went to the ER and took like 6 x-rays. They said, images are a little fuzzy, but it looks like you broke your tailbone. So, yeah.
That's rough. Well, I appreciate you making the drive up, and I appreciate you making it. Seymour Mac Productions, what do you guys do, man? How'd you get into business, and what do you guys do?
Yeah, sure. So, you can't tell by the name, but we're a video production company. Pretty much a one-man operation right now. I have a few guys that I contract to come out with me on shoots that will run cameras, a couple assistants, maybe do some behind-the-scenes footage so we could put out our own content on our social media, some editors that I've worked with, some photographers, and looking to expand that this year. This year is going to be a big growth year for the business, and looking to bring some people on in more of a full-time capacity, contracting still, but hopefully be the rising tide that lifts all boats and give some people some opportunity in my area to do what they love as well. Because for so long I did something else where I made really good money, but it just wasn't where my passion was. So now we're doing video production and heavily focused on the construction industry. Probably 95% of my clients are in some facet of the construction industry. There's a few reasons for that. I used to do construction, a lot of residential work, so everything except basically roofing and plumbing, framing houses, electrical, building decks, things of that nature. And so it kind of was like a natural direction for me. I kind of know the language. I know the landscape, so to speak. I look like I belong there. I'm not like showing up with a camera and a scarf, some artsy fartsy like college grad, camera guy.
Yeah, you fit the blue collar image for sure.
Yeah. When I first like meet somebody, they're like, oh, all right, yeah, no, you look like you belong here. And and I talk to these guys how I talk to anybody, with respect, but I don't pull any punches. I am who I am, with you, with my friends, with whoever. So I think that's appreciated also. These guys, especially the old school guys, man.
Sure.
They don't have time to mess around. They don't want to be bullshitted. So I think they appreciate the honest approach that I have. And I have something of, I believe, of value that most of these guys can use for their companies and, building their brand and building awareness and trust in what they do. And just a lot of times they don't really know about it or haven't really considered it, or maybe have an old school mindset on how to use video for their business. So it's been awesome, man. And it's been crazy though. A lot of ups and downs.
Yeah. Well, that's being self-employed. So I definitely want to dive into more of, the type of work that you're doing, who you're working for, more of the production side. But how did you get here? How did you get to this point? You said you had another job, you were making a lot of money. Now you're making good money, and now you're working for yourself here. What was that? How did you get to this point where you decided, I don't want to work for somebody else, I don't want to work for corporate America or whoever it was, and how did you get into wanting to work for yourself?
Yeah, so I mean, it kind of all started back in high school. I'm 40 years old now. So in high school, I was making music, I was performing music, I was doing audio engineering. That was kind of the world that I was living in. That was the dream that I had, right, is to be a musician, a rapper, an audio engineer, to just do shows and make money and travel, like, a lot of young guys. And we were too poor to hire somebody to shoot a music video. So I was like, I'll figure it out. Picked up, a little camcorder and figured it out. So that's how I got introduced into video. Now we're talking 20 years ago.
Was that still like, did you have to hold the video recorder? Like
it wasn't that big.
No.
It wasn't that big, but it was this big,
Okay.
My first like professional camera was still like a mini DV tape camera. So to drop the footage onto the computer was like a real-time thing. Now you just drag the files over and it's just like, it's almost instant.
Yeah.
But back then, if you shot for 4 hours, guess what? You're watching for 4 hours as it goes onto the computer.
Sure.
So, it was that far back, but it wasn't so far back. I wasn't cranking the reel on there. But, there was a point when I was probably in my mid-20s where I realized, I'm making enough money for cheeseburgers, booze, and weed, and it's not really going anywhere for me.
Yeah.
So I kind of fell ass backwards into a corporate job in pharmaceuticals. I was working for a major vaccine manufacturer here in PA, Northeast PA, and I did that for the last 13, almost 14 years. And that wound up coming to an end after COVID hit, a couple of years there, world got a little weird, a little crazy. It definitely sprouted a different perspective in kind of where I saw myself, where I wanted to be. I was making decent money, but was I ultimately happy where I was? Was I willing to do the things that they were asking me to do to stay in this place where ultimately I didn't really feel happy? And I kind of had an epiphany. I was like, if I don't take a leap of faith in myself now, then when am I going to do it? I was 38 at the time. So Seymour Mac Productions, I didn't do anything camera related, actually anything creative related for about 5 years when my son was born in 2014. So about 5-6 years, I didn't touch anything. And when you're a creative person, that's like an outlet, right? It's kind of like it's a little therapeutic outlet in a lot of ways. So I started realizing I was missing something. I have a mentor of mine who's a really great photographer. He does weddings. I actually film weddings for him for his company still. And I was kind of like complaining to him like, I'm thinking about picking up a camera again. And he was like, hey, dude, you've been talking about it for like 3 months now. He's like, just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it. And let me know when you're comfortable enough because maybe I got some work for you. So at this point, I'm still working pharmaceuticals. And this is 2020, actually end of 2019. So COVID hadn't happened yet. World was still somewhat normal. And so 2020, I started my company, but it was just like a weekend thing. And I was just like kind of relearning how to use a camera again and wasn't focused on it as a business. I was still making, almost 6 figures with my day job. And then in 2022, it was all kind of coming to a head. And by then, I got really good with the camera. I was filming weddings. I had a few clients here and there. And ultimately, I just had to make a decision. Now, in hindsight, the best decision I've ever made. But at the time, the hardest decision because my wife was a full-time nursing student. I was the one with the income, the one with the benefits. Our son was 8 years old at the time. A lot to lose, a lot to risk to just go, hey, I kind of have no clients, but I'm going to do this video thing. And I tried getting other jobs leading up to that decision. And I don't know if I was like blacklisted from the pharmaceutical industry or not, but I have a pretty good resume, a 13-year resume there. It was, middle management, and not a single interview came my way. And then I tried getting like video editing jobs. I had a couple interviews, but nothing ever really panned out. And I think ultimately I was just like, I think God's telling me, hey, dude, what are you doing?
There's a reason why nothing else is coming up, and this is sitting right in front of you.
Exactly.
Take it and run with it.
Yeah. And this was like another thing that happened. I don't have to go too far into this, but, that period of time where I was transitioning from the pharmaceutical industry into ultimately going and doing my own thing, I was never a really religious person, but I got brought down to, I was down in a hole, man. I was in a dark depression, a lot of anxiety, a lot of self-doubt, a lot of doing all the wrong things to try to like cope with it. And it actually, in hindsight, was one of the best things that ever happened to me because it actually created an opportunity for me to have a relationship with God. So now I'm 38 years old at the time when this is happening, and I'm learning how to have a relationship with God, which if you would have asked me for 38 years before that, like, that wouldn't have been me. So it's like all of these things happened, and it was just like, I'm trying to get these other job opportunities, go punch a clock for somebody else again, and like at the same time building this relationship with God, and he's just like, hey, what are you doing, man? Like, I brought you down this path for a reason. The door is open. All you got to do is step through it.
Sure.
So it was difficult. It was a difficult thing to do. But I mean, that's what I did. So I took a leap of faith in myself, and my newfound relationship with God, having faith in God. I didn't even know what that meant at the time, but I was just like, I guess this is what it is.
Yeah.
And it's been 2 years now since that transition started. But last year in 2023 was my first full year in business, just doing video production. And it took me 13 years to, get my salary at that pharmaceutical industry. I replaced it my first year in business.
Awesome.
For myself, which was like the first milestone. It's like, okay, if I could at least do that, there's no looking back,
Sure. So all worth it.
It was all worth it. Yeah. Yeah. Still scary though.
Well, yeah, it's always scary taking a leap of faith and going into the unknown, but it seems like everything kind of aligned for you for a reason. There weren't any jobs available, for a reason, and kind of forced you to take this leap. And I'm guessing you don't regret it and you're loving what you're doing.
I don't regret it. There's months where I do really well in business. There's months where I do damn near nothing. And when I look back and I reflect on those low months, it's almost always because I didn't do what I had to do to make it happen. So, punching a clock for so long, my entire life, I was answering to somebody else.
Sure.
All you had to do was show up and do the prerequisites. If you want to do the bare minimum. I happened to be very good at my previous job, so I was doing well and I was excelling, but there was very confined parameters, right? And frankly, I could show up to that job high, I could show up to that job drunk, and I would have killed it. It wouldn't have mattered. And a lot of times I did, if I'm being completely honest with you.
That's
Not drunk, but high.
Yeah.
I had a smoking issue for a very long time, which I'm happy to say I'm sober now.
Okay.
But this was one of those things that I realized that when I went into business for myself, that I was kind of living in this false sense of security where I was doing this job for 13 years, showing up high, giving presentations to site leadership, and I was like crushing it. And I'm just like, oh, this is just life. I could just crush it.
Yeah.
But when I look back, I go, I was stifling my own potential so freaking much by living in that lifestyle. And that lifestyle kind of started with the music thing. That's living that life for so long. It just kind of spilled over into corporate life. But I realized when I started my own business, there's no way I'm calling you, who I don't know, to try to convince you need this service I have that I feel like could be of good value to you, but you don't even know who the hell I am. Like, I'm not cold calling people. I'm not doing sales. I'm not having viable conversations with people, building my business up if I'm still living that lifestyle that I used to live. So just for me personally, and some guys don't have to do this, but for me personally, I had to make some changes.
Sure.
So, had to stop smoking. I don't really drink, so that wasn't a problem, but the smoking thing was like an everyday thing for me. And that was something that I just realized, like, when I look at last year, because I was still off and on with it, the months where I started smoking again are the months where I did the worst.
Really?
So I'm just like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, what do I really want through this experience in this life? How do I want to provide for my family? Do I want to like just be good enough and just get by, or do I really want to build something, great here? And ultimately I want to do something greater. Right. So sacrifices must be made. And honestly, some sacrifices are worth making.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And running a business is tough when you're really busy and, you have 2 months worth of work lined up and you're scrambling and you're busy. It's hard to think ahead. It's hard when you're that busy to think ahead for month 3 and 4 to make sure that you're lining stuff up. And sometimes you're so involved in what you're doing, you don't even have the time as a self-employed business owner to think that far ahead. You're just trying to get through that day and make sure you bring some money in, pay the bills, keep your clients happy. So, working for yourself, being self-employed, it is a challenge and a grind, and you got to be focused and you got to be on top of it. But you're relatively new to it, really into it for, 2 years now, 1 year full time. So you're learning and you're realizing, like, those slow months, if you keep this pace and you keep learning and you keep growing, in 2 years, you're not going to have those slow months because you're going to learn how to balance it out and how to keep yourself busy and how to just kind of keep it more even keel going through. But that's
so
part
I'm not crazy, man, because you've been doing this a long time, right?
No.
So you've owned businesses and this is it's not unique to me where I'm like, man, March was great. And then the next month was dog shit.
No.
Like what the hell happened there?
No, I mean, the goal is to get to where they're all great, but
Yeah.
you definitely, especially in the beginning of any business, I have owned quite a few, and it takes time. It takes time. And you're very fortunate to be busy and doing well, even just in your first year and a half, because a lot of people wouldn't be in that boat, but it took the leap of faith for you to get there. And really just go for it, and you wouldn't know if you didn't try.
Yeah, and the upside is not strictly financial, right? Like, as men, as fathers, as husbands, as businessmen, we have metrics, right? We're trying to make more than we did last year. We're trying to provide better than we did last year. Each day, I'm trying to get better in that aspect. But when I look at the amount of hours I put in, let's just say my last year working for the pharmaceutical company versus my first full year in business, I'm putting my son on the bus every morning. I'm there when he gets off the bus. I get to choose who I want to work with. Just because you have the budget for a project doesn't mean that I have to work with you. If you're I don't know if you curse on your show here.
We'll keep
I have a potty mouth. Yeah. Just because you maybe we don't vibe, right?
Yeah.
So just because you have the budget doesn't mean that I have to work with you. Like, I'm not in a position now where I feel like I'm beholden to every single person that I come in contact with, right? So there's a lot of upside to running my own business that I didn't really realize was going to be the upside. I thought it was just going to be like time and financial. Like, oh, cool, I get to make my own money. I get to keep it all. Well, you don't get to keep it all. You got to pay the man. But, I'll have all this extra money and I'll have all this extra time. And it's just like, well, I do have a lot of extra time, but it also is like, it's a balancing act. It's like,
sure,
if I want to make X amount more this year, I'm probably going to have to sacrifice X amount of time in the house.
Sure,
right?
absolutely.
But at least I have the comfort of knowing if my son has something going on after school, I could be there.
Sure.
If I don't like this person that I got introduced to, even if they have the budget, I don't have to work with them.
Nope.
And that has been a peace of mind and something that was unexpected kind of going into this, right? Like going in, I just thought financial. Like I have to replace this salary, so I have to make this much money. But then I'm realizing, man, I'm there with my family way, way more than I used to be. I worked second shift for a very long time. So working those off shifts, you miss a lot. My wife worked first shift, I worked second shift. We barely even knew who each other were after 10 years,
Sure.
And that took a humongous toll, my marriage, just from working that, working those schedules and living in that lifestyle. Very difficult to keep a healthy marriage going.
Sure.
And then COVID happens, and that just that's like the icing on everybody's cake, right? It's like if you were in dire straits in those years, it got real dicey.
It got stressful. Yeah. It got did. And being self-employed is, it's a give and take. You can have that freedom. I personally, I was at a point, 4 years ago, I was in my office here at 5:30 in the morning, and I would work. Then I would go on site, work with my crews all day, and then when the day was done for everybody else, then I would come back here and I would try to get something done to not be so buried in paperwork and invoices and estimates, and then get home 7 o'clock at night. I missed, my kids were really young then, and I missed a lot of time with them. My wife luckily handled, everything that they needed, the doctor's appointments and everything, because I was just here doing this. And it was great, but I also had a couple different businesses going on. I was really multitasking and doing a lot. But now I've rolled it back, and we have one small residential dock building business, and then we have our Triaxle app, but it's a whole different lifestyle for me. Same thing. I put my daughter on the bus every morning. I'm there to get them out the door. I'm still working. I still, you're as an entrepreneur, you're still basically working 7 days a week, one way or another, whether it's mentally or the phone rings or whatever, whatever comes up. But it's a give and a take. And I know in 2 years, I'm probably going to be really busy again once our app takes off and we've built some traction. So I'm soaking up the time that I can with them now because I missed so much in the beginning.
Exactly. Yeah. And what's the price on that, right? Like you can't even put a price on
absolutely not
on those moments. And that was something that I realized, and I think a lot of people realize it through, especially like the COVID years, but like you go through like minus the COVID years, if let's just pretend it would have never happened. Anybody goes through this transitory kind of phase where they're like, you know, they're in a job, they're just going through the routine, they're not really happy. Maybe they're making good money. You know, a lot of people not barely making good money, but just realizing something's missing from their life, and they're sacrificing all this time with their family, and they're missing moments.
Sure.
I mean, we wonder why people are so depressed and have no hope, and you know, there's all this craziness going on. And you know, I am very, very grateful for the way things happened for me. I felt kind of bad for myself after I lost my job because I kept saying it didn't have to go down that way. And it didn't. I mean, in hindsight, especially, I knew going into it, but in hindsight, I think everybody is kind of at least somewhat aware that things didn't have to be handled the way they were, you know, with whether it was governments or companies or states or whatever. But my specific situation, it did have to happen that way for me, because I would have stayed at that freaking job until I was 70 years old. I would have made good money, but I would have always said, man, I wish I would have did that video thing back when I was 38,
sure.
40 years old, you know? And now I'm into it, and I'm like, why didn't I do this sooner? Why did it take something that catastrophic for me to finally have a little faith in myself? And frankly, I didn't really have that much faith in myself. I just didn't know what else to do.
Sure.
And I just took a leap and I landed, luckily. But it's been a lot of work and it's been a lot of stress. So it's just like, you know, for me, it had to happen that way. And I'm grateful. I'm so grateful for everything that has happened for my personal situation. Now, it's still messed up. I still kind of holding a grudge against some people.
So I don't want to go back in too far, but you said you lost your job with the pharmaceutical company and you hold a bit of a grudge. What, I mean, you go into it as far as you want to go into, but what happened there that you didn't really want to leave, but now you're grateful that it happened that way? So,
I mean, specifically, I worked in vaccine manufacturing for 13 years about, and I was into it. I really enjoyed what I was doing. I more so enjoyed most of the people that I was working with. They're just regular people working in these manufacturing places, even like vaccine companies, just regular everyday people, right? And I enjoyed what I was doing. And when COVID happened, they forced compliance for getting the shot. And now a lot of people think, well, you know, you're working for a vaccine company. Yeah, no duh, man. Of course you got to get vaccinated. Well, I worked in flu. I manufactured the flu vaccine for the majority of the time that I worked there. In manufacturing, I'm not going to go into how there's different ways that the flu vaccine is made, but one way that it's made is use chicken embryos. So they basically inoculate the chicken embryo at a young stage. That chicken creates the vaccine. You extract it from the chicken, and then you do a whole bunch of other very technical scientific stuff to make it safe to inject into somebody's arm. It's a very dirty process, is basically what I'm saying. I would get that fluid in my eye, in my mouth, all over me. Never had to get vaccinated for it. Yeah. Never. So this was a new forced compliance aspect. And they were looking the other way on very normal things previously. Natural immunity, you know, how long these things take to come to market. There was just a lot of stuff that the people I worked with, it was obvious to me, in my opinion, that they were looking the other way on some stuff, and I didn't feel comfortable with it in the end. I was on board until that started happening, and then I was like, I don't know how comfortable I am with this. I had just gotten COVID. They told me your immunity doesn't count, and then that's when I knew this is all, for a company like that, was more so probably a money grab. They got a lot of money from the government, from the DOD, and that's just bottom line. So do we pay Mike his measly 6-figure salary to stay, or do we get rid of him? We keep a couple $100 million. Right. Yeah, you're probably going to keep a couple $100 million, right? Sure. So I wasn't the only person. There were a bunch of people that got let go. But bottom line is I could have stayed. Probably a way easier decision would have been to just comply, keep the job, and I would still be there today.
Right.
But I sleep well at night knowing that I made the right decision for me and my family. And ultimately, it was the better decision for me because now I'm doing something that I really love.
And that decision led you into this new lifestyle, your new business, and had you not stuck up for yourself and did what you thought was right for yourself at that time, you'd still be working there.
I'd still be working there.
You wouldn't be sitting here today.
I wouldn't be sitting here today with you. I wouldn't be putting my son on the bus every morning. I wouldn't be I wouldn't be doing anything that I'm doing today. And God forbid that I wouldn't also be facing some sort of health situations that maybe I'm not facing now.
Sure.
So, and we don't have to go too far into the weeds, but there's just like a lot of questions that came up. And I know a lot of people who are still working there, who working at other companies that had to do the same thing. And they don't sleep so easy at night anymore. And a lot of regrets and a lot of second guessing. Now, I know a lot of people who are like, no, I did what I had to do and I feel fine.
That's it.
And that's great too.
Sure.
So it's like, I'm a libertarian at heart. And I guess actually I'm a registered libertarian. So I don't necessarily care what you do as long as you're not imposing upon me, right?
Sure.
So you do what's best for you. I'll do what's best for me and my family. And as long as we're not forcing each other to do something that kind of crosses the boundary, then I'm fair with that. You know, like it's all fun, fair for me. Like I don't care.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah. So that's kind of how it led me into. So that was like the end of that road. This door opened up, and there's no looking back now. Yeah.
A lot of times, I mean, for me, like some of the most devastating things, like in my career, like the jobs that I lost, or like a key person quitting, or I can probably sit here and write down 20 different instances in the past 15 years, times where I was like, that sucks. That's bullshit. That, man, this is the worst week. This is the worst month ever. I can't believe that happened. But looking back, a lot of the things that I felt were going so wrong at the time it worked out. It worked out in the end. A couple years ago, work was very hectic for me. Like, employees trying to keep them on. And I finally made, some key people left, and it forced me to make a decision. And I said, you know what? I'm done. I'm going to wrap up these couple operations. I just can't do this anymore. It's too stressful. Plus I had our Triaxle app, coming into my sites, and we were just getting geared up for that. So had I not had some bad things happen, it wouldn't have forced me to make decisions, and I wouldn't be exactly where I am today. So, I think the moral of what I'm trying to say is, looking back, some of the worst things end up being some of the best things once you can see through the light and you look back on it.
Yeah. In those moments, it's hard, right? Because often you're faced with what seem like unsurmountable obstacles or decisions that seem like, how am I going to know what I'm about to do is the right thing to do? And ultimately, you just have to follow your heart. Like if you have a certain set of principles, you're probably better off just sticking to those, even if it seems like at the time, man, there's so many people going against me on this. Not a lot of people agree with what I'm about to do, but I just feel like in my heart it's the right thing to do. And that would be my suggestion. Just follow your heart. Just stick to your principles mostly. I think bottom line, what came down to it, because not even my wife was necessarily 100%. She was not 100% in agreement with my decision making, and that was probably the hardest part. And, but I knew that, what was I going to tell my son? Like 10 years from now in the future, my son's 18 years old, and he goes, Dad, through those crazy years, those COVID years, like, what happened? Like I read in the book that it was crazy in the textbook, or maybe depending on how they write it, maybe you don't read anything crazy about it.
Yeah, you might.
But like, what happened? What'd you do? And I'm gonna say, well, son, when it got real hard, I folded on my principles.
Yeah, that's not a great lesson.
No, I just knew that I couldn't have that conversation with him.
Sure,
his future him, and I didn't think I was making the easy decision, but I just felt like it was the right decision.
Sure.
And it took quite a while for that to actually show itself. It took months before I realized, oh, I did make the right decision. And the hardest period of my life for sure was, let's call it like January 22 to damn near third quarter of 22. That's like at the end of that year is when I really started focusing on this business instead of feeling bad for myself and holding this grudge and looking backwards. Sure. That's when I started looking forwards. And I started implementing some things, like I got a business coach. I really started putting a lot of value in what was possible instead of always looking in the rearview mirror and feeling bad for myself.
Whining about what happened,
Yeah, can't change it.
No, you got to push forward.
Just push forward. And I think that's what being an entrepreneur is, right? It's just This thing happened. It sucked. How do I push forward through this?
And it won't be the last time either.
It's not. No, for sure. It's not. Yeah. Looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, you never know what's going to pop up. Yeah, you never know. So Michael Brown, your company name is Seymour Mac. What's Seymour Mac?
Yeah, so Seymour Mac is my grandfather's name, actually. Dr. Seymour Mac Goldstein. He was a chiropractor for 67 years in Brooklyn, New York. He took patients up until he was about 91 years old.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Wow.
Almost 92. He wound up passing away a little bit before his 94th birthday, a few years back. And I knew, so like I started the business in 2020. I had the opportunity to show him, like, hey, I started this business and I named it after you. And here's why. We sent him a video. He was kind of like bedridden. He was dealing with some cancers, some Parkinson's, a lot of stuff that he was a very keep it to himself kind of guy. And being a chiropractor, I don't know. He just didn't like to put it all out there, even to his family. So him being kind of like on his deathbed, came out of nowhere to a lot of us. And this was during COVID. So we couldn't even go to the hospital. We couldn't even go see him. So there was a lot of mess. Like the timing was horrible, but I was at least able to show him, like we shot a video, all the siblings, our mom, sent him this video where we all said a little something about what he meant to us. And I was able to tell him, like, hey, I started this business. I'm following my dreams and I'm naming it after you because of what you've done for me. And what he's done for me is instill a certain set of values that when I would go to his office and see him working with his patients, it was incredible. Like, it was very obvious that he was doing what he was meant to do, and he really loved what he was doing. And before anything else, he put integrity and honesty and respect for his clients, like above anything else. He would take people in for free. If somebody was hard up for money, don't worry about it. Like, he was just a really good guy. He worked with like a lot of celebrities. He worked with a lot of athletes, a lot of track athletes. So I would like go to his office and I would see like all the pictures on the wall, like him and like these track stars, Jackie Joyner Kersey, him and the now defamed Bill Cosby, Bozo the Clown. So like back when I was younger, it was like, oh, these are all like superstars to me.
Yeah.
Right. And they still are, just some of them did some naughty things. But that's where the name came from. And I did that, let his legacy live on in some way. I probably should have been a chiropractor, and that probably would have been the best way to, carry the legacy on. But it's fundamental to me because when I say the name of the company, I'm reminded of him. I'm reminded of what he stood for, and it reminds me of why I'm doing this. It's not to make the next check. It's to really bring value to somebody with the talents that I have. And I don't have a lot of talents. So I utilize what I have been given to really create some sort of value for the people that I'm working with. And it just like keeps me in check, man. It keeps me in my lane. So that way I don't get, my eyes don't get too wide. I really stay focused. So that's where the name came from.
Cool. Well, Grandpa, means a lot to you. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's a cool guy, man.
Good deal.
Yeah. Dr. Goldstein.
Dr. Goldstein.
Yeah.
Nice. That's great.
Yeah.
So Seymour Mac, so what is your primary focus? You say you do about 90% blue collar construction companies. So You're helping people do commercials, you're doing, content creation. What are you guys doing over there?
Yeah. So we're doing all of that. I kind of landed into working with a lot of construction companies, everybody from the landscaper up to the commercial construction management companies. Maybe they're doing like hospitals and stadiums and things of that nature. So I have some bigger clients in that realm and everybody in between. And I used to do construction, a lot of residential stuff in my younger days. When I started this business, like most people in videography, they go, well, I do weddings and I do real estate and I do business and I do this and I do that. And then you do it all, but you become an expert in nothing. And I realized pretty quickly that my mindset was leave all the opportunities open. But then I'm talking to you, a construction company owner, and I'm trying to position myself as somebody who really understands what your issues are, what your goals could be, and how to help you with video. And then you go to my website and you see weddings and real estate and all this other stuff, and I don't look like the person that I claim to be. So not that I stopped doing all that other stuff, but I kind of did. I mean, it just naturally happened. I really started focusing on construction companies at first. And we're doing commercials. I think that's where everybody minds, especially old school guys, their head goes, video? Oh, we could do a TV commercial. Yeah, we could do commercials. They don't typically end up on TV anymore. It's mostly like advertising on social media or YouTube, Google, things of that nature, LinkedIn now. But we do branding videos. So really what we do is we help companies build trust and awareness in their brand by telling their story. And that's kind of where my passion is what is your unique story, right? You're not the only, custom home builder in town. How do we help you stand out from all your competition? Because you might not even be the most affordable one, but you're probably the best one. But more than that, you have a unique story. So how do we do that with video? So that's kind of the route that I take when I'm talking to somebody new, where I go, tell me your story. Like, where'd you get your start from? Is this like a multi-generational family business? Are you a veteran-owned business? All female-owned construction business? Like something unique like that, where it's like, okay, how do we leverage your story to build trust in what you do? Because if you don't have trust, then you don't have anything, right? If somebody, you might even be the cheapest person, but if the person you're talking to, that you're trying to sell your service to, doesn't trust you, right? There's something about you that just doesn't seem trustworthy. Maybe the work doesn't seem trustworthy, or they don't know anything about you, never heard of you before. Then how do you get that person to sign on the dotted line to build their new house or their hospital, their stadium, or whatever? So we utilize video to help bridge that gap. And we're like we're brand trust building and awareness building is kind of what it comes down to.
Yeah, for sure. And that's huge these days in the world that we live in. I mean, everywhere you turn, guys, a lot of guys are really putting a lot of effort into their content, whether it's, just daily or every other day, social media reels or, whatever it is. It seems like if you want to be recognized these days, you've got to be putting some effort into content creation, whether it's hiring a firm like yours or doing it with your iPhone on the site, when you get a chance. But it's a big thing. We live in a digital world. Everybody's, checking their phone when they have a free minute and looking at their Instagram or looking at their Facebook. And a lot of these companies out there, I think a lot of success in the past, let's just say like 5 years that some of these companies are seeing is the constant brand recognition of their company.
Yep.
And the constant, like, in your face, like every day, what they're doing and what they do and keeping it real. A lot of, a lot of commercials, they're staged, TV commercials, they're fake. It's actors. But with what you're doing, you're telling somebody's real story in real time. You're filming them on site with work that they're actually doing for an actual customer. It's not staged. And we're a big advocate for the trades, big advocate for the blue collar world. We have a scholarship, trying to encourage younger people to get into this. And I think it's great seeing the companies out there that are highlighting what this industry is. And, construction industry is very vague, very broad. It encompasses, a ton of different separate industries within it. But I think it's great to see it getting highlighted and showing the world, like, yeah, it might not always be glamorous, but this is real and this is what we do.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to look forward to in this business.
Yeah. Sometimes it's an uphill battle for me, especially if the owners are old school, right? Like the older guys. A lot of them just don't get it, or they don't want to get it. A lot of times I hear, I'm not getting on social media. I don't do that.
Yeah.
And that's fine. You don't have to be on a personal Facebook account. But if your business is not taking advantage of Facebook, LinkedIn, because now LinkedIn is pushing a lot of video content, I will not be surprised if they start pushing short form video content like Instagram Reels or Facebook Reels. YouTube has, their long form. They're most known for their longer content, podcasts, things like that. But they're pushing YouTube stories or shorts. So like that's their short form, right? And excuse me. And then something like TikTok, which I have a TikTok. I just kind of cross post all of my own content on all of these platforms because why not? But also it's like, where are your clients most likely going to be? So for when I'm talking to somebody and they're telling me, well, we don't do social media, I'm like, all right, well then, you've reached all your goals. You have no further aspirations. Everything that you're currently doing, you're running TV commercials, and maybe you're making a ton of money that way. But if you have no further goals, you've hit all your numbers and that's it, you're happy with that, then maybe there is no way I could help you. But if you're putting all your eggs in one basket and it's an old school method that it's being currently phased out of viability, like cable TV commercials, they still could work. But again, it depends on where your clientele is, right? So, we kind of look at potential clients coming in, people that I'm talking to, and I'll say, okay, if let's say you're a roofer and you have a Facebook page, you're probably going to find a lot of your clients through Facebook. You might find some on Instagram, probably less on something like TikTok, probably nothing on LinkedIn unless you're doing like industrial commercial level work, but Facebook is probably going to be your bread and butter. So I have one client who I've been working with now for a few years. They kind of like, when I went full time, they were like one of my first clients, and he's a younger guy, so he gets it. They only advertise through Meta, so Facebook and Instagram. We did an ad for them. Between the production of the ad and then marketing the ad for about 2 months, they spent less than 10 grand. They made 75 grand in new revenue in that time frame
that you could attribute directly
to the
that
video.
Wow.
So it's one of these things where these platforms have built in. It's just so easy to track. We run this video as an ad with a button on it. Mary Smith clicked the button. She saw the video. She clicked the button. We got her contact. We reached out to her. We closed the deal. Mm-hmm. We made 10 grand.
Sure.
It's easy. So for me to be able to show that is powerful too. So if you go to my website, you'll see that's kind of like the top story on our website, on our homepage, because that's powerful. So it's like, if it worked for them, it could work for you. So whether you're a roofer, a landscaper, a larger company, it's just put it where your potential clients are going to be. And that might be LinkedIn. So I have another client who is, excuse me, a commercial construction management company. They're doing hospitals, like commercial buildings, so Starbucks, banks, stadiums, schools, prisons, things on a bigger level. All right, they might get some potential clients through something like Facebook, probably not, but it's probably going to be on LinkedIn.
Yeah, you need to understand your market.
Yeah, exactly.
Who your potential clients are.
Now, for them, a lot of the jobs that they're getting, they have to bid on, right? But you also need to start building trust, right? It's not just a bid on a project. They're going to take the lowest bid every single time. And you probably know this better than I do, but when I'm looking at, like, let's say I want to build a school, I let 20 companies 20 companies bid on this. I'm not just going to go to the cheapest one. I'm going to actually look at each one of these and go, all right, well, why is this person more expensive than this person? All right, let's look at what they've done in the past. What's their portfolio look like? And if you have no portfolio to show, maybe you have some photos on your website or something like that, compare that to somebody who has nothing. Compare that to somebody who has an engaging video that shows you building this previous project you did that's similar to the one I need from start to finish, right? You know, long-term time lapse, or, you know, a really in-depth look at guys on the ground really explaining, hey, here's we are phase one of this project, and here's some obstacles that come up and how we're handling them. And then you're able to show in a few minutes a project that took you 8-9 months to build, right? I'm looking at that as this potential client. I'm looking at your bid. I'm looking at your portfolio, and I'm going, they're actually a little more money than these guys, but I don't, these guys have nothing to show for. So, you know, a client like that, like, yeah, a lot of it comes down to the bid. Material cost is material cost, right? I mean, that is what it is. So you start shrinking your profit margin on like labor, you know, can we do more with less guys, or can we hopefully not cut corners, but how do we create this cheaper bid? But why do that? Like, why shrink your profit margin when you could just show why you are the better choice by really showing what you've done in the past? And a lot of guys just default to like photos, you know, crappy, grainy photos that they take with their phone in the heat of the moment, and then they throw that on their website. And I mean, maybe that was good enough back in the day, but it's just not good enough anymore.
The bars is being set too high these days. Your competitor is using, you know, video creation. They're using companies like yours, or they have somebody on their staff that's really good. Like, no, everybody has their own way. I know some guys that are extremely successful and they don't do shit with video. They don't want to do the social media. It's just they're well established. They've been around long enough. They have enough of a clientele that they're just busy.
Yep.
And they couldn't handle the work if more came in. But that's kind of few and far between these days. It's more often than not, if you want to be recognized, if you want to maintain your image, especially like if you're in the residential service industry, if you're landscaping, roofing, you've got to be putting this stuff out there, and you got to know your clientele, and you got to know where to be putting that. To your point, like the big governmental bids, the school, unfortunately, a lot of time it does come down to the number. But if the low bidder doesn't have a good reputation, has a track record of goofing jobs up and not following through, then the next person in line does sometimes get a shot. And it even happened to me on a project one time. We were not the lowest bidder, but we got the job because we had an outstanding reputation. We were well known for our work in the area. The other bidder, another local company, did not have a good reputation, and their number was way lower than where I was, and they're kind of just like, you know what, we're not taking a chance on you. We'd be doing the taxpayers a disservice by taking your price, because you're going to ultimately, the job's going to get screwed up, and somebody else is going to have to come in and fix it. So, there's a little bit of give and take there. A lot of times it is the number, but anytime you can show off your business, show off your work, show off your people, just show who you are and that you're trustworthy, there's always a chance that it does help you in the event that you're not that low guy. Yeah.
Step one, do good work.
That's it.
You know what I'm saying?
Do
That's
what you
step
say
one.
you're going to do. That's a hard thing to find sometimes.
Yeah, show up. Hey, I'm going to show up at this time. Show up at this time. You know, that is like the number one thing that I always hear. It's like, I can't find a contractor who will show up. I talked to 10 of them, and none of them showed up for the estimate. So it's just like, I don't understand how these guys are making money sometimes. They're just shooting themselves in the foot. But maybe it's a situation like, you said, where your buddy, which I come across a lot, where it's like, I'm so busy right now. It's all word of mouth. I don't need to do anything else. And it's like, okay, maybe I can't help you. Right. And that's fine. I'll move on to the next guy who needs my help. But
keep it in mind for the future.
Keep it in mind for the future, because what if that starts drying up a little bit?
Sure.
We can't put all our eggs in one basket and just hope that carries us across the finish line forever. Maybe it will, but I know for me, I can't do that. Yeah. So, the other aspect, which is a big part of what we're doing, is the social media content. And, a lot of guys are now figuring this out, especially the younger guys. Just start. You have a super computer in your pocket at all times. If you have a new iPhone or new Android, the cameras are incredible. You could take good quality video, upload it to your Instagram, your LinkedIn, your Facebook within seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Why aren't you doing that?
Sure. Because that's better than nothing.
It's better than nothing.
You don't have to hire Seymour Mac.
Yeah.
If you can't afford it or you're just starting out, but just do something.
Do something. Now, in most cases, something is better than nothing, unless what you're putting up is absolute trash.
Right.
If you're showing your guys falling off of ladders and
or breaking
all sorts of
OSHA violations,
out the ass.
Yeah, that's always tough when the camera's on site.
Yeah, or it's just you're uploading video that's really dark and grainy, or the audio you can't hear nothing. It's like you want to upload something, like it doesn't have to be a highly produced video, but you do want to upload something that represents your company
Sure.
in the way that you would like to be represented, right? A lot of times I talk to guys they're like, our company is one of the best companies, and we want to make sure that the video that we put together, shows us as the best of the best, top of the line, professional. We're second to none. And then we start talking budgets, and they're like, we didn't want to.
Yeah.
We
didn't really want to spend any money.
Yeah, we were hoping to maybe spend like $500 or something like that. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, these two things that you want don't equate.
Yeah.
They don't live in the same world. If you want to be, seen as the best of the best, but then you want to cut corners on video production because you don't want to spend a couple $1,000 to do it, well then, by all means, go find somebody. You can find somebody to do something for $500 or for free, but you are not going to be satisfied in most cases with the result. So, be realistic with your expectations,
Sure.
right? A lot of times these things, depending on what people want, because everybody has these high expectations of video, but then when they start hearing numbers, they don't really understand what it could cost, and it could scare them a little bit.
Sure.
But not everything is $10,000, and I'm happy to meet in the middle. But if I'm at 5,000 and you're at 500, and you don't want to go up at all,
Yeah.
there might not be much we could do.
Well, that comes down to you don't have to work for everybody.
That's it. Yeah.
What's the saying? Looking cool isn't cheap, and being cheap isn't cool, or something like. I think I goofed that up.
I never heard that before, but it makes sense. Yeah. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I mean, and you have to be able to, some people, they just don't get it. Like, you have to invest in your business.
Yeah.
Whether it's your time, effort, video work, I mean, to say, okay, Mike, I really don't want to spend $5,000 on a video. Like, yeah, $5,000 is $5,000. That's a lot of money. But if you can make 25 out of that, and you don't do it, you're missing out. And there's a lot of people out there, they see that. They're not afraid. There's a lot of guys that are listening to this going, yeah, man, I'll spend a couple $bucks on a video because I know I'm going to get that return. It might not be next week, but it might be 6 months, but I will get that back, and it will make me money.
But and you have to be smart with it, right? It's like, first of all, if you don't have any money, then you can't spend any money, right? So obviously be smart with your money. If you have a $10,000 marketing budget for the year or for the month, let's say, but that $10,000 could potentially make you $100,000, and then it does make you $100,000, what's your marketing budget then, right? Is your marketing budget still $10,000? Nah, you're probably going to say, hey, Mike, what can we do with 20?
Sure.
But there's two pieces to this puzzle. There's producing valuable content, and then there's marketing it. So I always have this conversation with people that I'm potentially bringing on as early as possible. There's a puzzle, right? We're going to produce a really dope video for you. It's going to be exactly what you've envisioned, and it's hopefully going to attract the clientele that you're looking for, or the workers you're looking for, or whatever the goal is for that video. We're going to knock it out of the park for sure. But if I give you that video because you have somebody, my sister is good with Facebook, she'll handle it from there, and then it sits on your hard drive for the next 6 months, or you put it on your website that gets 5 visitors a month, or nobody sees this video, then it's not going to do anything for you.
You got to follow through.
And ultimately, I look like I didn't do my job,
right,
because now you didn't do the other piece of the puzzle. So it's two pieces to that puzzle, right? So we're going to produce the video for you. And my clients usually kind of fall within like 2 or 3 buckets. It's like, just produce the video. We have a marketing team that can handle it. We've done it before. We know exactly what we're doing. You produce it, you hand it to us. That's it. I kind of love that because my heart is in the creation process. But a lot of times it's, my cousin is doing the Facebook for us. So they could probably handle it. They probably can't handle it the way that it needs to be handled. Or we don't know anything about it and we don't want to know anything about it. You handle it.
Do it all.
Yeah. So we kind of like do it all for you as well. When we have that conversation and you're the first one and you go, just hand it to us, we're going to take it from there. We have complete confidence in ourselves to bring this thing across the finish line. And then you don't do that. And then you want to come back to me complaining that, hey, this video didn't do what you said it was going to do. And then I start digging. Hey, where's the video at? How are you using it in your marketing strategy? I speak to your marketing person.
You never even posted it.
You never even posted it. It's on your website that nobody sees. It's not even a part of the strategy. Then I don't feel so bad anymore. Sure. I mean, I feel bad because you invested money with me, and ultimately I want you to get value out of it so you come work with me again. I want that thing to be like the video I did for Symmetry, where it's like, cool, you spend less than 10 grand, you make 75 in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
What? I'm still working with those guys because they get it.
Sure.
You know, they're not afraid to dump a few $1,000s into marketing a month, and they're only doing that through Facebook, essentially. So it's a powerful tool that could be a great return on your investment if you connect all the pieces and you make it happen, right? I mean, you can make a ton of money with a crappy video, or you can make no money with a beautiful video. It's just how you handle it, you know, once you have the video.
Sure.
So yeah, that's like one of the hardest parts to some of the relationships that I've had this past year, where now I'm starting to basically say, hey, we're going to handle it all for you. So that way we have a little more control over the outcome, right? I mean, essentially our job is to get leads into the top of your funnel, and then hopefully your lead funnel, your sales funnel is built properly and you can close those leads. I don't have a lot of control over that. But when I give you something and then you don't utilize it, you know, it's kind of a waste of money for you.
Sure.
And then you're never going to work with me again, you know? So
it's like buying a piece of equipment and then just parking it behind your shop and not using it, you know, like you got to put it to work. You got to
put it to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to do it.
Yeah. Like I built a website and I'm expecting people to all of a sudden just know about my business. Nobody knows about your website.
No.
You got to get out there. You got to shake hands. You got to make phone calls. You got to knock on doors. You got to do whatever it takes to let people know that you exist. And video could be a really powerful way to do that. So this is something that's like, take my own advice. You know, it's like the painter who never paints his own freaking house, or the landscaper whose grass looks like crap.
Just how
you know
it
what I'm
goes,
saying?
yeah.
It's just how it goes. I'm doing videos all day for other people, and then I don't do my own videos. So it's like, hey, take your own advice, buddy. Like let's get some videos out there. So I've been focusing a lot more on producing my own content, just kind of showing some behind the scenes. Hey, here's what it looks like when you hire me. You know, here's me on the job with, you know, this landscaper. Here's what some of the final shots look like. And that has been really powerful for me. I've gotten a bunch of work from simple content like that. So you don't have to spend a ton of money. You could do it yourself if you're keen to it, if you're kind of tech savvy enough with the phone and with Instagram. You could really start funneling in a lot more leads to your business. I mean, you got the phone in your pocket. It'll take you 5 minutes to go, hey, I'm out here on this job. We're going to be putting a roof on this house. Jane is going to love it. And then if you can get Jane to go, I love it. It's so great. These guys are the best. Boom. And then put that on there too.
Yeah.
What's better than that?
Sure.
You know?
Keeping it real. Keeping it real and keeping it like just down to earth and legit. It just sells itself.
Yeah.
You don't have to fake, you know, what you're doing if you're just being honest and you're showing, you know, what you actually do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think a lot of guys look at social media like, well, I don't want to be an influencer.
Right.
And it's like, you don't have to be. Just be you.
Just be you.
Just be you. Now, if you're entertaining, like if you have a good personality, that will come across. It's going to be weird at first because you're not used to talking into your phone like you're talking to a bunch of people.
Right.
But after you do a couple of those, like the first couple podcasts you did, probably a little weird.
Yeah, I mean, this time last year, I was not a podcast host.
Yeah, exactly.
But I had to start somewhere.
Yeah, and now you seem pretty comfortable with the setup, right? And
yeah,
so I mean, it just takes reps. You just put the reps in,
sure,
and you just be you. And I feel like that is the most powerful for my clients. Is, you know, we'll be planning like let's say an ad or something for them. Oh, should I do it? Should I get somebody else? Should we get an actor? It's like, listen, man.
Oh, you should do it.
Unless you got two heads, man, you're doing it.
Yeah.
You know, and if we could avoid reading a script, let's do that too.
Sure.
Because you're never going to read a script and it sound natural. Let's figure out what the key points are that we want to get across in this video, and I'll ask you questions. You'll answer them, and then I'll piece that together,
right.
And that'll give us everything we need. It'll sound natural. It'll be you. So people will see your video. It'll be you. You'll come knock on the door for that estimate. Maybe it'll be you unless you got other guys doing it. Come do the job. It'll be you. Shake the hand, collect the check. It's all you all the way across the line. And then when they go, hey, I got my neighbor needs a roof. You know, my cousin needs some landscaping done. They're going to refer you because you've built so much trust in them every step of the way.
Sure.
Right. So social media is a long-term game. You're not going to make it big, most likely overnight. But every piece of content builds more trust, more awareness in your brand. So even if for the next 2 years I don't need a new roof, and then all my shingles blow off my house tomorrow, who am I going to call? I'm probably going to remember the guy who's been putting videos out, giving me all of this value for the last 2 years, and go, hey, that guy Jim's roofing, like, I see his videos all the time. He's a local guy, right? Yeah, let me call him. Let me see if he could do it. And that'll be the guy who gets the job. Yeah. So that's how it works.
Authenticity goes a long way. It really does. Even for me, like, and to your client's point, like putting yourself out there, it can be a lot, you know. Yeah. I lived for so long in my little network here, and I didn't, we did social media stuff of our company, but it was always like the machines and the trucks and the crew from afar. And then I get into Triaxle, and I'm spinning the phone around doing these what I think are stupid selfie videos, just like, and I can't stand it. I hate watching myself. I hate listening to myself, but it works. And people know, my name, my face with Triaxle. It's not just, some actor or, Doug and I have this pet peeve of stock images. We hate stock images. We don't do anything stock. Everything on our Instagram, everything on our app, it's all our own content. It's our own stuff. We just want to be authentic, and it goes a long way. And if you don't like us or you don't want to work with us because that's who we are, well, that's okay. That's just how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I always pitch like educational, entertaining, emotion, right? Like when it comes to content creation, like if you could solve a problem for somebody, and in the industry that I work with, you guys are solving problems every single day. You don't really think about it because you've been doing it for the last 2 decades, but simple stuff that you're doing day in and day out might seem like insignificant to you, but there's a whole bunch of people out there that are trying to figure out how to use a T-square. They have no idea how to use. They don't even know what the freak a T-square is. Like what's this thing on the top of the hammer? Like what's that for? Like they don't know you could put your nail in there and then you could, you don't have to hold it and bang your thumb off it. So stupid stuff like that, all the way up to like how to install something, troubleshooting a piece of equipment, reviewing something like, hey, I got this new excavator. Like, here's what I think of it. Here's some features on it that I really love. Here's some stuff that I really don't like. There's a whole bunch of people out there that are looking for those answers. And so you're solving problems for people. You're answering questions, especially when you think about like those frequently asked questions. We do these a lot for people where it's like, I'm spending 10 hours a day answering the same 20 questions. It's like, okay, why don't we just put those in a video and then you don't have to do that anymore? Right. What's that time worth to you? It's like that equates to however much you make an hour. Like that's a lot of time that you can now be, one, you're buying that time back, but now you're reallocating that to something more important, maybe in the business, maybe with the family, whatever it is. So it's like, how do we buy your time back? How do we help you create value for people who are watching your content? And the ultimate goal is to convert some of those people into customers. But there's this other thing that exists, which is sometimes like, who do you got? Like the Perkin brothers. Have you ever watched their content? They're like custom home builders, maybe like cabin builders. They're like out west, I think.
Okay.
Maybe Midwest. They have a humongous YouTube channel. I can almost guarantee you that these guys are on the job sites just creating content. Like their crews are running the actual business, but they have created this other revenue stream that might even be making more money than their actual business is making.
Possibly, yeah.
Now, is that everybody's going to turn into that? No. But if that revenue stream at least, pays for the video production costs, then it wipes itself clean. If some of those people who are watching your content turn into customers and they want you to build them a cabin out in the woods, that could be $200,000 for your business. So it's like there's a couple different ways to think about it, right? Not everybody's going to become an influencer or this overnight YouTube star. And most people don't want to be. And that's fine, but it will funnel people into your business at some point.
Sure.
You will convert somebody. And that might be $50 client, depending on what you do, or it might be a $50,000 client. So it's like, why not put a little effort into that?
There's so many different ways you can utilize a camera or a production company.
Yep.
So many different ways you can utilize it. It just comes down to your business and what you're looking to gain out of it,
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Another one, just kind of like as another idea, is client testimonials. These are like the most popular thing that we do. Is we take, a written review and we bring it to life.
Yep.
So you have a client who you did an amazing project for. Yeah, let's sit down with them. Let's have a little Q&A with them, do like an interview with them. And then let's film a bunch of B-roll showing the project off that you're either currently building for them or that you've already built for them. Let's bring that to life. Maybe you did a kitchen, restoration for them, or you built them a bunch of bathrooms in their house or whatever. Like, let's bring some of that to life. Let's show that off. And then let's put that in a video form. Like, you could put that on your website. You could put that on your social media. But then you could run those as ads just by themselves. And it's like, think about like when you go to Amazon and you go to buy whatever, you go to buy a new Yeti mug or whatever. Like, first thing I do is go to the reviews.
Yep.
Like, let me see the 1 stars. Let me see who's complaining about this piece of crap. Let me see the 5 stars. Let's make sure they're not fake reviews.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, based off of what the community has said about this product, I'm going to be more or less likely to purchase this service, right? So it's like, let your customers, your happy, satisfied customers, build the trust in your brand for you. Because like, if I'm telling you how cool I am, you might believe me, but you're probably going to think I'm a pretentious,
whatever.
a-hole, right? But if he tells you how cool I am and she does and he does, hey man, that guy's really cool. Like, he did a great job for us. He's a really cool guy. You're going to place a little more value on that, right? So Absolutely. Like, let people speak for you, and let's just bring that to life, make it a little more engaging. So those are powerful, and you don't need me to do those. You could do that with your phone. Keep it really simple. Say, hey, I just want to ask you about the project, what you thought the experience was like. Would you refer us to your friends and family? And then put that in a quick video and put that out. Sure. And that's powerful.
That's great advice. That's great advice. So, but people do need you for some stuff. So why don't you tell me what's your radius, what's your travel area, what's your working area, and how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, sure. So the bulk of our clients are going to be in Northeast Pennsylvania, but really the entire Northeast region of the country we work throughout. We've done projects kind of outside of DC, Northern Virginia. We've done them up in Connecticut. We'll go up to Maine. I mean, basically this whole Northeast region, a lot in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut area is the bulk of it. But I'll go to Jamaica. It's just you're just gonna have
the
to
right
pay.
price.
You're just gonna have to pay to fly me out there.
Yeah.
And if you're interested, you could go to my website, seymourmac.com, SEYMOURMAC.com, and all the information is right on there on how to get in touch with us, or social media, Seymour Mac, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We're everywhere.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Mike, you got a great thing going. I'm thrilled for you that you know, a couple years ago, things kind of went the wrong direction that sent you in the right direction. So I think it's awesome that you were able to take that leap of faith and start your own business. I'm looking forward to seeing what you're doing here in the future. I'm definitely going to be following along, and I wish you the best of luck, man.
Yeah. Look, thanks for having me, man. Super enjoyable to talk to you and to kind of hear your story, like even before we started, just hearing like what you've been going through these past few years, making that transition into focusing on the app. It's like at some point, I hope if you're going to take anything away from our conversation today, people listening or watching, is if you have that in the back of your head that there's something else that could be greater for you, take a leap of faith in yourself and do it. And it will work out. If it doesn't work out, don't blame me. Adapt, right?
Adapt.
But if you don't take a chance in yourself, you're never going to find out. And the last thing you want to do is die with that regret. So I appreciate your time. Thank you, man.
Yeah, no, thanks. And just to touch on that a little bit more, I've been talking. I've left my Northeast PA bubble that I've been in for 20 some years. In the past 2 years, you know, I'm having conversations. I have friends all across the country now through my new venture, through my new business, and I've met a lot of people that have left the corporate world, left, you know, secure family businesses to take that leap to go out on their own, or maybe not even going out on their own, but going to work for somebody else and doing something that they want to do versus chasing the dollar. Ultimately, you know, a lot of people, you know, they've left $300,000-$400,000 a year jobs and taken a major pay cut, but they're happier than ever to be doing what they're doing. So I guess to that point, chase your dreams, follow your gut. And one way or another, you know, even if it doesn't seem like it at the time, I guarantee it will work out. And I've talked to endless people who, you know, a lot were pushed during the COVID thing, kind of just like you. They were forced to make a transition, and they've never been happier. So yeah. I think that's great advice.
Look, this life is short, and if you're gonna do the thing just to make the next check, ultimately you're gonna live with regret, I feel like, and it's just too short to do that. You know, there's more to this life than just going punching a clock and living in that routine. And doesn't mean that it's going to be easy chasing that dream of yours or doing something that you have a little more passion for. But I think ultimately it's what we're supposed to do.
Sure.
You know,
and
why else are we here, man?
It's easy to lose sight of that because you got to take care of your family. You got to put food on the table.
Absolutely.
And you know, and people got to do what they got to do. And I don't blame anybody for, as long as you're working and you're hustling one way or another, you do what you got to do. But if you have bigger dreams, bigger aspirations, it's worth it. Just take that leap.
Yeah.
Mike, it was great. It was.
Hey, if I could do it, anybody could do it. That's what I always say. Yeah. Because I'm half retarded. So
thanks, man. You're a smart dude. I appreciate coming on. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, man.